Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for joining me for lesson number 19. In this lesson, we continue to talk about the Prophet, peace be upon him. So one day, the Prophet ﷺ, he was lying down alone beside a camp and he fell asleep. A man from his enemies came along and by chance saw the Prophet ﷺ sleeping. So he saw it as an opportunity. What he did, he quietly went over, removed the sword of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and raised it over him. Just then, the Prophet ﷺ woke up. When the Prophet ﷺ woke up, the man asked, "O Muhammad, who will save you from me now?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, calmly replied, "Allah." Upon hearing this, the Prophet's reply, the man began to tremble with fear. So once he heard what the Prophet had to say in response to him, after he said, "Who will help you, O Prophet? Who will help you? Who will protect you?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Allah." So when this man heard the reply of the Prophet, he started to shake with fear, tremble, and suddenly his sword dropped out of his hand. The Prophet ﷺ then picked up his sword and asked the man, "Now who will save you from me?" And that man had no answer to that question. The Prophet, peace be upon him, let the man go. There's a few questions here for you to answer, inshallah. So go through those questions. Try and answer them without looking at the story again. If you do, however, get stuck, you are welcome to go back and reread the story in order to understand the answers correctly, inshallah. Okay, so moving on to section B. Here, what does the story teach us? So point number 1, the Prophet ﷺ had trust in Allah, Allah. Having trust in Allah is a great virtue, and we are encouraged from the Quran to have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in any situation that you find yourself in, have trust in Allah. How was the Prophet ﷺ a brave man, and what do we learn from this story? Because of the trust he had in Allah, it made him brave. He didn't fear anything else because he had fear of Allah, and he understood that nothing can happen without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was very kind and forgiving. He even forgave those people who were mean to him or disliked him. Okay, so he forgave everybody. The Prophet was kind. Why? Because he let the man go. Okay, he was not mean to him. He could have, when he got the sword, harmed this man, right? He could have harmed him. This man came to harm the Prophet ﷺ. When he dropped the sword, the Prophet ﷺ picked his sword up, and the Prophet ﷺ could have harmed him, but he didn't, because he was so forgiving and merciful. These words, you have 4 words that are underlined here. So you've got the trust, brave, kind, and mean. What I want you to do is find the words in this word search, inshallah, and tick those words off once you find them. So once you find the words here, do tick them off over there, so you know that you've completed, inshallah. I hope you enjoyed this very short story and you learned important lessons on being kind to others, even if you don't like those people, and also being brave when you have to, and putting your trust in Allah, remembering that everything happens with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakallah for joining me for today's session. Inshallah, I will see you next week. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.